Welcome to Municipal Focus. This is the 2020 candidates version as we make these time slots available for folks who are running for office for the Whitman town election, which is coming up in a few short days. Because of COVID-19, a lot of the candidates have not had an opportunity to really do what you traditionally do as a candidate. When you go to gatherings, you talk to people about your platforms, why you're running for office, what you feel the issues are. Tell a little bit about yourself. And so that's what these particular programs are very helpful for. And joining us today is Heidi Hosmer. She is a candidate for assessor, the Board of Assessors. Heidi is not new to the town, and she's not new to doing television programs. I believe a couple of years ago, she actually was a candidate, and we had a similar conversation. Heidi, welcome to Municipal Focus.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. So the first thing I would ask you is, for folks who may or may not know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I am a resident here in Whitman. We moved in 2017, just coming up on 3 years. I was formerly, when I was in my town in Rockland, I was on the Board of Assessor. I served for about 6 years. So I'm experienced. I'm an experienced assessor. I'm certified with the Department of Revenue. I am a corporate trainer for my career, for my job. And I look forward to talking about why I want to become an assessor today. I have grown children. They're all grown up now. It's just we're basically an empty, well, we're not quite an empty nest. One of them came back, but that happens, right, in life. And that's basically the short about myself, but I will get into more of my experience being an assessor.
Yeah, talk to us about what is the duties of an assessor? What does an assessor do?
The Board of Assessors typically oversees the office of the assessor. We review abatements and all of those things that come up. We vote on those based on the applications and the principal assessor's recommendations. We sign off on the final tax rate and all the documents that have to be processed through the Department of Revenue. And that's basically the simplified thing. The other part of being an assessor that I think is important is that you are not just a member of the Mass Association of Assessing Officers, but you actually, even though you're on the board and it's not your job, you attend the meetings and the conferences and things like that so that you can understand the Department of Revenue changes they may be coming out, so that when your assessor comes before you in a meeting and they say, well, this is something new we have to do, or this is some new rule, that we are all understanding what that is. And I think that it's important to stay plugged in to the association. So I've always done that. And that's another piece of it. And working as a team as well. I'm not of the mindset to go in as I'm going to be somebody's boss, more that we work as a team and to serve the taxpayers, because being fair and equitable is always important. So that's what it is to me. To me, it's more than just sitting on a board and signing warrants and signing off on abatements and signing off on the bills to be, well, not the actual bills, but what's going to be sent up to the collector. It's more than just signing documents.
Okay, let's talk about experience and how it matters. You have experience. You're not just somebody who just decided, this looks like a good office to run for and to be on the ballot. Experience matters, correct?
Correct. It does very much. It does matter.
And so that the idea here is talk to us about your experience. Again, you sat on a board for a number of years. I mean, what how valuable is that, you coming into this race and asking for Whitman voters to select you come June 27th.
Okay, well, my first experience being on the Board of Assessors in Rockland is I came on that board, we actually had no principal assessor. They had terminated the assessor. The office was literally a mess. There were boxes of papers and documents everywhere. So we had to secure temporary help. It was temporary help. It was Bob Brinkman. I believe he's now principal assessor in Braintree. We had to call him in part-time, and then we had to have an assistant come in part-time, and we only had one clerical person in the office. So even though I had a full-time job, there were weeks sometimes where I was almost in that office every single day, and we put that office back together. We hired the principal assessor, who is still there today and doing a fabulous job. So we basically got that office back from not running to back up and running. And that was the biggest challenge. My other experience, again, being part of the Assessors Association, was attending as many conferences and meetings as I could to educate myself on the process and the different challenges that the assessors face every day, all the way right down to the tools that they have in the office. So I did a lot of that. I was a very proactive member of the board. And then, of course, the routine things about looking at abatements and things like that. And then we have, sometimes the abatement doesn't go exactly the way the taxpayer anticipates. So we have to have those conversations, and always trying to keep it out of the appeals court if we can, because it's an expense on the town. And we really want to work with the taxpayers whenever we can. And that's what we did in Rockland, and just making sure that we have all the things we need going on correctly in the office to do the most efficient job we can for the taxpayers, and also working with the other boards and committees, where it's the Board of Selectmen or the Finance Committee or the treasurer or the tax collector, all of those folks, the financial pieces, we all have to work together because they all feed up into the same thing. And it's really important to have good communication and good relationships. And we did that. I always attended the classification hearings every year with the principal assessor, to support them. And to support the principal assessor, that's another very important thing, that if the assessor comes to us and says, you know what, I think we can get this done quicker and more efficiently if we try this, or, technology and things like that.
Well, I know you have a darn good assessor in Kathleen Keefe.
Yes.
I would say, so for folks who don't understand, it's a delicate balance when it comes to the abatement process, because you have a resident who comes before you seeking an abatement, feeling as though that maybe they should get a break on their taxes, but yet you also have to be considerate of every dollar counts and every dollar matters when it comes to a town, because more and more in the town of Whitman, revenues aren't what they once were.
This is true. So what it really comes down to is, a lot of the times they're very legitimate abatements. Something got missed or something is being added on that really doesn't exist on the property. My advice for the taxpayers, and I know it can make people uncomfortable at times, is if when they're doing the revals, that you let the assessor, let them in. Because there could be 3 houses in your neighborhood that on the outside look exactly the same. One could have a finished basement, yours might not be. There's just a lot of different components that go into the property valuation. So my best suggestion, and oftentimes this resolves a lot of things, is just simply letting people in. Sometimes it's a mistake where the assessor or whoever doing the valuations for us on the properties will think there's something existing in the home that might not be, that would raise up the value. So communication is key. And most of the time it's a missed thing, and most of the time you can settle up without giving away the farm, because we don't want to do that, because we all do have um, a responsibility, to pay our for property taxes. And then there's the financial situations that come up too, where certain circumstances would warrant a lower tax rate for a year, a hardship or something like that. And you just have to evaluate all the components. You always have to be fair and equitable and treat everybody the same. That's the main thing. And if you're doing that, most of the time it works out. Every now and then we can't resolve it, and it does have to go up to the tax appellate court, and then they make the decision. The assessors make their case and taxpayers make their case. But we always try to avoid that, because at the end of the day, as a board, we're here to serve the town, and that's the primary thing. It's about service. So that's how we did it in Rockland, and I know Kathy a lot too, from the association and being an assessor for all these years. So I know that she's very capable, and she's very bright, and always wanting to do the best for the town and looking at better ways to do things.
So it's worth noting is a lot of folks don't understand like how it goes with the tax rate, where one year maybe the tax rate might be a little up, but yet, values or assessments are down. Explain to us, if you will, the yo-yo effect, where one may be up, but the other is down. How does that work?
Well, what happens is if the valuations are down, that means there's less money getting plugged into that box in the formula. What happens is you have the levy. Just to keep it really simple, the levy's $1 million, and if it comes out to be $400,000 in valuations, then the other $600,000 gets plugged in to get the rate. So if the valuations are down, the rate is going to be higher, but essentially it's still funding $1 million. And so your tax bill itself, it's going to be the same, because you still have to raise and appropriate and fund. Well, you have to fund what was raised and appropriated at town meeting. So it's just a formula.
And it's worth noting is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Hosmer, and that is that she's using $1 million. It's just a number. She's not saying that's what the town of Whitman's levy limit is per se. It's just a number, just so you can get an idea as to, because some people will, because you're giving an example, she doesn't know what. That's not the case at all. The idea you're trying to give an example, and I think you gave you aptly gave a good example of how to explain that. What has it been like trying to campaign for office during the whole COVID-19 pandemic, and how do you feel that if you are elected come June 27th, what is it going to be like for assessors, not only in Whitman but around the county, around the state? What is it going to be like in order to try to do your jobs, knowing that there's so many things that are skewed because of this virus?
Well, we have to be thoughtful. The first thing, and I don't know how they've been meeting or if they've been meeting. So the first thing that we have to be mindful of is the open meeting rules. So assessors can't send emails back and forth to make a decision on anything that requires a vote. So we have to make sure that we're using the most current technology. Zoom works. I've been working remote since March myself, and this is my life all the time. I'm on Zoom quite frequently, so we have to make sure we utilize the technology so that we meet as a board. That's crucial. And then when it comes to the valuations, we have a vendor that assists us with those things. As far as letting people in the house now, it's challenging because it depends on the taxpayer. Basically, if they're not comfortable letting somebody in under these circumstances, we really can't push that right now. I think of creative ways that perhaps we could do these things, maybe pictures, if there's a question on the property that's got to do with the valuation, maybe the taxpayer can take their phone, 3D and go around the house or that one area and say, see, this is what it looks like. And, maybe some kind of signature that that's true. And because if we went in there 2 years from now when this isn't happening, and unless something changed and we find out it wasn't true, so things like that, you have to be cover your bases, but at the same time it's important that everybody involved feels comfortable. So that's the other thing that we have to be mindful of. But I think it can be done. It's more challenging. You have to be creative and you have to think out of the box all the time now, which we've all learned, right?
We actually have. I have to ask you, usually with communities, the sexy race is usually one for mayor or for board of selectmen or select board, and then it's the next tier down where it might be school committee or the board of health. Has it been difficult to kind of get people's attention with you being a candidate for the board of assessors?
Oh, very much so. I mean, because there's only a limited amount of audience on the town group Facebook pages. There's only certain people, and it seems, I'm not saying other people don't look at it from time to time, but some people aren't on social media. So aside from putting out some signs and doing this, I mean, I didn't want to start knocking on. My original plan in the beginning, before all of this blew up, was I was going to visit the residents, knock on doors, introduce myself and things of that nature, maybe have not necessarily a fundraiser, but a meet and greet event. Of course, we couldn't do that either. So your hands are really tied. And when you're not the incumbent and folks don't know you, it's even a bigger challenge. So I appreciate this, at least for whoever does watch it, at least they'll know. There are some blue and white signs around the town with my name on it for those like from lists. I mean, again, that's something that when you're going out and you're knocking on doors and you're introducing yourself, that's when you can ask folks if they would put your sign up. And so all of that stuff, very stymied and very challenging to be a candidate. I suppose even if you're an incumbent, because I feel like even if you're an incumbent, you still need to make your case why you should stay. It should never be taken for granted that, well, I'm seeking my 4th or 5th term. Everybody knows me. I've never been opposed before. I should just, I don't have to do anything. And I think that's taking the residents for granted. And I don't see, as far as selectmen goes, I see the incumbents are definitely out there, with their signs, so saying, hey guys, I'm not taking you for granted. I still want your attention. I still need to earn your vote, because you always have to earn the residents' confidence and votes. You can't just assume, well, I've been doing this and they know me, so they should just check my name just because I'm on the ballot. I don't think that does anybody any service. And I know even when I was in Rockland and I was running as an incumbent, I always put signs up. I always socialized it. Never, ever did I take it for granted. And I just think when you're an incumbent and you've been a long time incumbent in particular, and somebody finally, somebody steps up and says, hey, I think I want to run for that office now. Maybe things are getting stale, and that incumbent doesn't feel the necessity to communicate with the residents in any way. I just feel like you're taking people for granted. And then that's a general across the board. I down the street in Rockland, there was a very long time incumbent on the Board of Health, I think 24 years, and they did not win. And so it's all about the effort and the communication, and don't take the taxpayers for granted, because we work if I get elected, I work for you. Whether it's volunteer or not, I'm here to serve the town. So, yeah.
So let me ask you this. Has social media, I know sometimes people shake their fists at social media because it can be frustrating. Sometimes the conversations cannot be as friendly as they should be, and sometimes people's behavior on social media isn't what it should be. Do you feel that it's been a blessing in disguise to be able to at least be more visible as a candidate during the pandemic?
Yeah, I do. I think even though there were rules and you can only do one thing a week and all of that, I do think it helps. Thank God for that. I mean, that I was able to get one thing out there, and I'll probably do a little live thing tomorrow, day before election, reminding people to come out and vote, and just say it once more. And I have my page, for my candidacy page, and then of course, hopefully, with social distancing, I'll have a presence up at the polls during the day on Saturday as well. But social media, yes, you just have to. And I've learned the hard way along the way, because we're all human beings, and it's easy sometimes to get caught up in things, to step back and observe and kind of listen to what folks are saying, particularly in the town, about the finances, and hear all the sides of the story and kind of take it all in without necessarily jumping into the middle with a strong opinion this way or that way. I mean, we have a lot going on right now, particularly with the schools, and there's a lot of debating and arguing and what's fact and what isn't fact. And so for me, kind of dialing that back and just reading what folks are saying and hearing what concerns are, I think is important. You don't always want to get, I say the word, sucked in to a Facebook fist fight, so to speak. And Lord knows, in my past, I've done it. I'm as guilty as anybody. It's easy to happen. Yep. Emotions are running high, opinions are strong. You're coming from this point of view, and they're coming from that point of view. And sometimes people lose focus on what the main goal really is.
Good point. So before we wrap up here, is there an item or an issue or piece of information that we have not disseminated to the viewers in regards to what it is or what is entailed in being a member of the Board of Assessors, and why they should vote for you come June 27th at Whitman Town Hall? Of course, polls open between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m.
Well, I think we've covered all the components, basically. And it's really about how involved you want to be. And my promise is that I will be involved. I will be plugged in with the association. I will understand all the issues coming from Department of Revenue, any legislation that the assessors are drafting to go to our state representatives. That's the other piece of it, is communicating with our state rep, Allison Sullivan. I have a good relationship with her. So when there's something that's happening with the assessors, I can speak to her directly about it, which is important. What I come with is a fresh pair of eyes, being networked with the other assessors, listening to what the other towns that are similar, you can't compare us to a city clearly, but similar to Whitman and size and all of that. What are the assessors doing there? One thing I do want to look at immediately is how we're capturing our new growth, making sure that all of those figures and numbers get to Kathy as quickly as possible. Is there some technology or automation that we can bring into that process? And is there technology and automation that we can bring into the office to help the staff to get things done quicker? Those are things I want to look at, including using Zoom. If they're not meeting, they should be meeting, and things, just fresh eyes, fresh ideas. Of course, change for the sake of change. No, change that makes sense and that's going to benefit the town is most important. So.
Okay. Well, this is the point in time where we wrap up our segment. What would you like to say to the Whitman voters who are viewing this right now in closing?
So in closing, I want to say, as I just mention that I bring in a fresh set of eyes. I am an experienced assessor. I am certified. I have energy. I want to help the town in this financial thing that we're going through. And, the assessors are part of the financial foundation to make sure that we're doing things most efficiently. I will be fair and equitable to all the taxpayers. I have an open ear. I'm accessible. I'm available. I'm going to look at when we do get to open up publicly and have meetings, that they're at a better time of the day for working folks. Because if you're working all day, 3:30 in the afternoon is probably not the most convenient time to have a public meeting. So I want to look into that. I'm excited. I want to help the town. I want to serve you. Taxpayers are my main priority. And I truly would appreciate your vote on Saturday so that I can serve you and bring this town forward more into the 20th century in the assessor's office. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Heidi. And thank you, the viewers at home, for tuning in to shows like Municipal Focus. Again, the idea of this particular set of conversations that we've had over the past few weeks is to better help you understand the individuals who are looking to represent you in various areas, whether it was for assessor, like our conversation today, or school committee, or Board of Selectmen. The idea is to better inform you before you go in and make your decisions at the polls. Remember, Whitman will be doing voting Saturday, June 27th at Whitman Town Hall in the auditorium from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We thank you very much for tuning into this particular program. And until next time, have a good day.